Alright guys, so last international window here before the World Cup. Let's make the most of it, okay? Some tough opponents here in Scotland and Ireland. They're from Europe, and European teams tend to be tougher, even though these two didn't make the World Cup. They're only ranked just below us. We need to be on the top of our game, and you fringe players, stake your claim for the World Cup squad, especially you goalkeepers with no Alex, okay? This is your chance to show me what you can do. Let's keep the standards high, and let's pick up some more good results before we see who we get in the World Cup draw. Let's go, fellas.
Party in the streets and the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 98 of the New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with both the All Whites and with Cashmere Tech. Coming up today, it's our last international window before the 2034 FIFA World Cup. We'll show you guys the highlights of that game against Auckland City in the Charity Cup, but on camera. Two very interesting away friendlies as we take on Scotland and Ireland, and also off the back of that Ireland game we will have the draw for the World Cup as well. So if you're looking forward to all that coming up in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But yesterday we made our way through the transfers we did going into the season. To be fair, not many, just Tressel, Ni and Kuru, who thankfully decided to join us instead of MacArthur FC because he doesn't want to go to jail. And also we made our way through the group stages of the Champions League, so if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Since then, just played a couple of friendlies before the Charity Cup, where we will take on Auckland City again. Definitely going to skip over that one though in terms of on camera, because we're probably going to take those guys on in the semi-finals of the Champions League this season. And today we are going to focus, as I said, on that last international window with the All Whites before the FIFA World Cup, albeit briefly, before we get stuck into there. A couple of transfers have gone through off the back of the end of yesterday's episode. A couple of controversial ones, but did feel like we might need some of that for the squad depth, and indeed that will be the case for this Charity Cup game, especially as Louis Evans and the Nkuru are away with the All Whites for this window. So a couple of new faces at Cashmere Technical. Brian Davis might be another one coming in as an extra third choice striker, albeit actually not as good as Michael James Gilbert. So that one, probably not as good a player as I was hoping to sign as an extra striker in behind Juan Carlos Castro. But Max Caputo makes a return just in case there's any injuries in central attacking midfield. To be fair, most of the time he will be playing for the Turtles. But yeah, there's a bit of history there with him playing a couple of games for the All Whites, then switching back to Australia. No cap since then, so he's a bit of an idiot, but we'll see how he goes. But to be fair, I don't think these days he's at All Whites level. So thankfully, that was actually a decision that might have helped us out with the national team going in to this upcoming World Cup, and also an extra defensive midfielder, mainly for when there's no Louis Evans, just to make sure that Teo DeMiro can start to keep our quota up of under 20 players, and that is Theophilos Simopoulos. He is a 26-year-old Greek, but also partially Australian. It's quite a nice signing for us there. Does count as a local player who can come in, like at the moment, when Louis Evans is away on international duty. So a couple of extra bodies there, local players, just to make sure that we're good there if there are injuries. And also, as I said, when Evans is away, can keep on starting Teo DeMiro. So our under 20 quota is just right. But that's really all that's happened off the back of yesterday's episode with Cashmere Technical. And we're going to focus now on the All Whites two big friendlies before we get into the World Cup. First up, we take on Scotland, equal 45th. Both these teams are below us on the world rankings, but to be fair, Scotland still got some decent players. Interestingly, their vice-captain is Jarell Quansah, and of course, he's just been dropped before the Euros by Gareth Southgate for England. So quite interesting to see here that he has opted to play for Scotland. In fact, in this save, not even English, which is quite interesting. He's ended up being Scottish in this save, and is at Bournemouth. But Jarell Quansah, no doubt, one of the better players there for Scotland, seeing as he is their vice-captain. Also still got Kieran Tierney, apparently the key player as a goalkeeper from Tottenham Hotspur. But Scotland, that could be a tricky one away at Hampton Park. And that game actually exactly the same time as I'm having to manage the game with Auckland City at Cashmere Technical. Last time that happened, I got stuck in the changing room for the first half of a game. Thankfully, it was against China, and we blew them off the field in that first half. Hopefully, that doesn't stuff up my plan for this first game of today's episode, but we definitely should get a full game in on camera when we take on Ireland. And those guys actually a bit higher ranked than Scotland at the moment. And despite the fact I thought he wasn't there in that squad in yesterday's episode, they do still have Evan Ferguson, albeit these days he is over in Saudi Arabia. So 2 European teams. I've avoided European teams for the most part in the save so far because I do think it's the strongest continent in terms of international football. I've been trying to play teams outside that continent, and to be fair, it has been working and helping us get up the world rankings. This could be quite interesting. Scotland and Ireland away from home, and in terms of our squad, we are missing a couple of players, one big one in between the sticks. Alex Paulson is out with an injury, and also 2 of our other goalkeepers, the regular ones in Debenham and Gray, only recommended for 45 minutes. No idea what they think a goalkeeper's going to do in only 45 minutes compared to 90 minutes injury-wise. So it might mean that Michael Wood might actually get some game time in this window if it does carry over into the second game. Thankfully, 6 subs in this window, so I do think we can handle making a sub at halftime because Wood does come in for Paulson, but at 35 years old, don't really want to be using him too much. And also, we are still missing Martin Darman, so Sono is our first choice right back, and Tressor comes in as the backup. As I mentioned yesterday, after we signed him, that was because he was injured last window when we called up Jason Thomas. Tressor does look a bit better, so he comes in for the injured Martin Darman. But apart from that, we are at full strength and hopefully can pick up a decent result, even though those 2 positions there, bit of a concern, especially Henry Gray in goal. That could be a bit dodgy against a decent team like Scotland. That might be an area that we definitely need to look to improve if we can find a goalkeeper better than any of these 3 that wants to join us at Cashmere Tech. But first up today, we're going to try and play Scotland. Let's just make our way forward and see what game's first, because as I said, going to take on here Auckland City off camera. As you can see, both these games for some reason taking place exactly the same time, even though Scotland 3 PM is definitely a lot different than New Zealand 3 PM. That's pretty much 3 AM for us here in New Zealand, so no idea why this is taking place at exactly the same time, but it does look like the All Whites game is going to be first, so it's time to get stuck into that one. First up today from Hampden Park. And we've got the team sheets for this one. First up, Scotland, they are going with 5 at the back, 2 defensive midfielders. That Rice is not Declan Rice, and 3 players further forward. There's our team. We ran through that before. I'm still in the changing room though, and I have a bad feeling this could be happening to me again like it did a couple of years ago against China in a very similar situation. We indeed are stuck in the changing room, hopefully just for the first half. This could be interesting in this clash at Hampden Park, where I'm stuck in the changing rooms as we take on Scotland. And 26 minutes into this game, the first highlight does take place. To be fair, I've got no idea what's going on here. It's just so weird being stuck in the changing room instead of out on the field. But apparently Rennie gets that ball away from Louis Evans. Ash plays the ball forward. Apparently they've binned in, knocked over Rice. Play continues. Rice with a low pass there down the left-hand edge. It goes in there to Mackenzie Ash, who puts that one away from an assist from Josh Doig, a player I had at Montpellier back when I was streaming, of course. That's his first goal for Scotland to replay. We won't see it. I'm definitely going to show these highlights from the first half after full time, provided we can actually see the rest of this game. But Scotland on the front foot so far, and they take a 1-0 lead. And just before half-time, we do get one more highlight here in the first half. Not that we can see it, a corner here in our favour. And it sounded like there that Lucas Kelly-Hield got his head on the end of that one, skimmed the top of the crossbar, so a chance for us there to equalise. But unfortunately, 1-0 down at half-time. Now, hopefully, if I make some changes here, we'll start to see the field. Thankfully, that's the case. So I think the second half here, we might see some action, which is good, only being 1-0 down. Not too bad. We'll bring on Debenham for Henry Gray on 45 minutes, and also Kelly going a bit fairly. Jay Herdman can come on for him, but everyone else out there doing okay. But we'll tell the guys not playing that well. No shots on target. Apart from that, though, the stats are relatively even. But hopefully, going to get some highlights we can show you in the second half and make a comeback from being 1-0 behind. And we finally see some action in this game, and it might be something here in our favour. A corner, and Justin Keat will take this one going near post there for Tyler Bindon. That one comes off the woodwork, and then Sono, for some reason, tries a long-range looping header. Can't get that one over Ramsey, and we're still 1-0 down. And just coming up to the hour mark in this game now, we're going to make a sub because Michael Cornelius-Beale has picked up an orange injury, and also our 2 players up front not doing too well in Pickering and McDonald. So we'll bring on Stamenic in the DLP, Paul Jones out left, and Uelise for George McDonald. Still one more sub left off the back of this, but hopefully those ones can make a difference and help us come back from 1-0 down. And going forward only a couple of minutes off the back of those previous subs, now it's time for our last one. We've got both Louis Evans and Justin Keat on a red heart. Joe Bell might be a better sub, but he's not quite on a full green heart. Louis Evans coming back in for Anto Bradic in this window. So instead, we're going to bring on Chris Jones with that full green heart and chuck him on attack at right wing in place of Keat. Also pass a bit shorter and also going to go a bit wider in terms of our play distribute to fullbacks. Just see if those changes might get us going a bit more in this one, as with 20 minutes left, we're still 1-0 down. And unfortunately, those changes haven't made too much difference yet, so now it's time for us here to go full out attack. Libby Katche, he can go attacking. Also, we'll try the liberos on support with both our centre-backs. That has worked previously in World Cups. Let's see if that will happen yet again. We'll go from shorter passing back up to slightly shorter. Also, distribute quickly and be more expressive. Go attacking. 15 minutes left to try and grab an equaliser. And a very late highlight in this game into the last minute of regular time, and I think that there is Cully here with a header, just tries to glance that one into the top right corner. Unfortunately, yet again, can't beat Ramsey in goal. Definitely a better second half for us there once I could see what was happening. Now I think it's a good time here to actually show you guys the goal that we've lost this game to. Here it is here. Rice was on the ball, plays out there to Doig down the left-hand side, floats that one into the mixer. Open header, not great work there from Lucas Cully-Heald, who actually got the highest rating in the team. Not too sure why off the back of what I've just seen, but that was the goal we conceded in the first half. Pretty poor defending there from that ball and from Josh Doig. We had some chances off the back of that, especially through headers, but unfortunately couldn't quite hit the target. Now it looks like I have to go straight into a game back in Christchurch against Auckland City in the Charity Cup, so I'll play that and we'll recap it before we take on Ireland in that second friendly. And before we take on Ireland, here are the highlights from that Charity Cup game down at the GMP where we took on Auckland City, definitely on the front foot early, but unfortunately actually conceded the first goal. Stajlokic, of course, quite a big lad with decent jumping reach, did give Auckland the 1-0 lead, thankfully, with about 10 minutes left in the first half, a penalty which Castro put away, and then a late free kick, Mina across the face, a goal there for Mahamadou, who beats little old Cox, puts that into the bottom left corner. So 2-1 up at half-time, and then really put them away here early in the second half. Great footwork that from Mina. The beat his man squares it for Mahamadou. A quick fire double either side of half-time, and then a really nice free kick that from Mina to make it 4-1. That probably could win goal of the season, considering that wonder strike from Castro yesterday might not count, because group stages of the Champions League are technically from last season. But a good win there, 4-1 over Auckland City. It does mean already picked up our first trophy here this season at Cashmere Tech, and also did pretty well without both Nian Kuru and Louis Evans. So quite happy with how that one went, coming back from 1-0 down to pick up a 4-1 win. But next up for us, we take on Ireland. Lots of changes going into this game with the All Whites, because lots of players not quite on a full green heart, and also only recommended for 45 minutes. Billy Debenham, it says is recommended for 45 minutes. That didn't actually come through in the inbox though, so I think we can start him for a full 90, but also coming in for this one for all those players on the bench who are quite tired or only recommended for the 45 minutes. We've got Nian Kuru at right back, both Curse and Billingsley, they will start. Joe Bell and Stamanic in defensive midfield. We've got Jones at right wing, and that is all our changes. Quite a few going in to the second game, but hopefully we can bounce back, albeit Ireland, as you saw earlier, were actually ranked higher than Scotland before that most recent game. That might have changed now off the back of them beating us first up in today's episode, but hopefully we can pick up a win here. Otherwise, I might be slowing down the rankings just a little bit before we get stuck in the FIFA World Cup once we make our way to June. And here are the team sheets for this one from the Aviva Stadium in Ireland. And first up, it is the home team going with a 4-4-2. Most notably there, they've got Bazunu in goal. He ends up being quite a good goalkeeper in FM, and a front two of Parrott and Evan Ferguson. That's quite lethal. There's our team who ran for that before. Lots of changes, hopefully a win here, to hopefully make sure we don't drop too far down the world rankings. And after 2 minutes, we get the first proper highlight of this game. There was one before this, but there was a clear offside there, Troy Parrott, so that got blown up. And to be fair, they didn't even get a shot off Ireland, so it was a bit of a waste of time highlight, but we do see the free kick off the back of that. Nice ball in there from Nian Kuru, but unfortunately can't quite find someone. Bazunu, as I said before, pretty good goalkeeper. He can claim that one before it finds its way forward to George McDonald, but that's a really poor clearance there, and now Stamanic can start to get us back on the front foot out there again to the Cashmere Tech man these days on loan in the Nkuru. The youngster Stamanic in there for Kelly, back out to Marco Joe Bell, these days getting quite old. He might be retiring off the back of the World Cup, being 34. Nice flick on there from Pickering for McDonald. That's a massive chance early, but uncharacteristically, he misses the target, and it's still 0-0. And just past the halfway point of the first half, we get the next highlight in this game, and again here we were on the attacker front inside the final third. Unfortunately, actually give it away, but again, it's a poor clearance there from Island, and Stamanic can get us back on the attack. Pickering will hook this one across the face. A goal there for Chris Jones, who heads that one away. Top right corner, bust out the aqua. Chris Jones has scored. That makes it 1-0, and that is very nice off the back of that big chance, which George McDonald missed earlier. Really should have already been 1-0 up, but thankfully Chris Jones can put that one away, beats Bazunu, and we take a lead in Ireland. And just making it into the last couple of minutes of this first half, very even game so far, but I think it's fair to say with the best chances we've seen them both. Really should have got a goal through George McDonald, but thankfully got one off the back of that through Chris Jones, 1-0 up at half-time, and as I said, what has been a pretty even game. Definitely, though, going to have to make some changes here going into the second half. Lots of players only recommended for 45 minutes. We won't take off Billy Debenham. As I said, I'm pretty sure he wasn't a name in the inbox before this game, so we'll risk him because he's a goalkeeper. That's a waste of a sub, but Ryan Billingsley, he can come off for Tyler Bindon. He'll go back to ball-playing defender. Also, both defensive midfielders, Louis Evans and Kenny Cowie, he came in for Beale. His injury was more than this window did have left, so that's a debut for Kenny Cowie of Sydney FC. And we'll also put Oati Uelese at right wing because Justin Keat isn't quite on a full green hat. So a couple of changes at halftime, taking off those softies who can only handle 45 minutes, but at the moment this is going relatively well. 1-0 up over in Ireland. And early stages of the second half, we're going to have to make our last couple of subs here, it does look like, because both Josh Pickering and now Jamie Kelly have dropped down to red hearts. Only 2 subs left. We'll take those guys off. Jay Herdman for Jamie Kelly. That one's pretty straightforward, and to be fair, so is Hall Jones for Josh Pickering. All our subs used quite early here in the second half. Hopefully can hold on to this 1-0 lead. And right on the hour mark, we'll just give a quick praise here. Hopefully it doesn't backfire us Ireland there. I think a free kick, that goal kick, would have been taken quite deep inside of the box if that was the case. But Ireland do keep the ball and make their way forward quite quickly. Troy Parrott makes his way inside the box. Let's see if the bird can do something. But good tackle there from Simon Curtis to win that ball back for us. Takes his time here trying to clear it, and that is not a good clearance. And Beck Eriksson from Real Madrid does get that ball back for Ireland. Now it's quite scrambly here inside the box. A couple of decent blocks there. Troy Parrott will head that one home with that big old beak. That is a very ugly goal to concede off the back of that. We'll just cancel. So I encourage instead of praise, because now it is 1-1, but this is a very scrappy goal. Lots of blocks in from all these efforts that Ireland did have, but Troy Parrott does get there eventually and head that one into the bottom left corner. It's unlucky, but Ireland make it 1-1. And making our way forward now to the 69-minute mark, and there's a highlight here as we make our way up from the back. That time I think it was from a goal kick there. A poor pass, I think that was from Louis Evans. A ball over the top there. Surely this bloke in Babajide is offside, puts it away, but thankfully the flag has gone up, so Ireland blow a chance there to go in front. 1-1 with 20 minutes left. And we're just made our way into the last 15 minutes of this game, and thankfully might be back on the front foot here with a thrown inside of the opposition half. Lots of our defenders have gone down to red hearts, which is a bit concerning, but Hall Jones here with a speculative effort from that ball from Louis Evans. Thankfully, that time of deflection goes in our favour. That makes up for that Troy Parrott goal only about 10 or so minutes ago, and we are back in front 2-1, and hopefully we can hold on to this. Might start time wasting shortly just to make sure that is the case. We'll probably do that from the 80-minute mark, but that is an important strike there from Hall Jones off of the bench to make it 2-1. And now that we're about to make our way into the last 10 minutes, let's start to do some time-wasty things. Also, the Nkuru onto support. Uelese, he can go on to attack. Let's just try and make sure our defence doesn't do anything too silly late on in this game, but time-wasting time off the back of taking a 2-1 lead. And in fact, there's a highlight right off the back of making those changes, so we'll see what happens here before they do go for. And to be fair, we're on the attack here with an overlap. Hall Jones plays that one in for Cowie, back up to Hall Jones. Louis Evans will take on a shot, from just on the edge of the box, but unfortunately a bit of a weak one, and the Irish goalkeeper can save that. Definitely starting to get the momentum in this game as we're 2-1 in front, albeit off the back of that. A throw-in is in our favour, but deep inside of our own half. We try and knock the ball about here. Interesting switch there. For some reason, Evans and Cowie did change position, but thankfully they did, because Cowie, nice ball over the top there, and eventually finds its way forward to George McDonald. Lots of help from the post, and thankfully finds its way over the line. Off back of that, we'll start to time waste even more frequently, because that should be the goal, which makes sure we pick up a win here in Ireland, making up for that Scotland game, which unfortunately we didn't really see the first half of, because silly FM bugs this year's game. Apparently the most complete edition of FM ever. I beg to differ of it. So many bugs in the save. It's not funny, and that one is a really weird one, because the game shouldn't even be taking place at the same time. But thankfully, George McDonald, we're going to make up here all that Scotland loss here with a win, and it's going to be by a scoreline of 3-1. To be fair, stats-wise, that was actually quite an even game. XG actually favoured Ireland, but based on the highlights we saw, I thought our chances were definitely a lot better, and thankfully we did take them. Just seeing here whom I picked up the player of the match, and indeed it was Josh Pickering off the back of that first half assist for the goal scored by Chris Jones, but thankfully bounced back from the equaliser through Troy Parrott, thanks to goals through Hall Jones and George McDonald, and pick up a 3-1 win. We'll come back shortly, check on our ranking before we find out who we're taking on in our group at the FIFA World Cup. So a bit of a mixed window for us there in our last one before the FIFA World Cup. A loss there to Scotland, albeit we can kind of blame that on the fact that I was locked in the changing room for the first half, but then bounced back with a 3-1 win over Ireland, and it does mean we stay exactly where we were going into that window, 38th in the world. So that's our ranking going into the FIFA World Cup, or at least it should be. And now it's time to look at the draw for this tournament, and the big news, we are in pot 3. So we have moved up from the previous 2 tournaments. We've taken charge here of New Zealand at a World Cup when we were in pot 4. A little bit surprised actually we haven't snuck our way up into pot 2 with that world ranking, and also making the knockouts of those last couple of FIFA World Cups. But this is going to take a while. This is the reason no bus trip today, because the World Cup these days, there's lots and lots of teams. The favourites are Spain, Argentina, the holders, and this one is taking place in South Korea. We'll definitely do some bus trips once we get into that. But now it's time to start the draw with John Aloisi, which is a very interesting former player to be doing the World Cup draw, considering he's Australian and it's in South Korea. But anyway, there's pot 1. Argentina, Brazil, Croatia, France, Germany, Italy, Ivory Coast, Mexico, Portugal, South Korea, the host, Spain, and USA. We know we can beat South Korea. If we can get them from pot 1, that should really help us in making our way through yet again at worst in second position. Pot 2, Austria, Belgium, Cameroon, Ghana, Japan, Netherlands, Nigeria, Paraguay, Serbia, Sweden, Switzerland, and Uruguay. To be fair, all those teams are ones we might struggle to beat, but could pull off an upset against. Pot 3, alongside us, Australia, so we can't get Australia in the same group as us, and that also applies to Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Egypt, Iran, Mali, Poland, Saudi Arabia, Tunisia, and Ukraine. And pot 4, these are the teams we should definitely be beating. Costa Rica could be tricky, but the rest of them in Bulgaria, Burkina Faso, DR Congo, Guatemala, Honduras, Iraq, Panama, Qatar, Slovakia, Syria, and the UAE, I'd imagine we can beat. We know we can beat Iraq. We did that in the window before this one that we have just completed. So now it's time for us to get through this draw. We'll do it on 3 times speed. To be fair, pot 1 and pot 2 are going to be a bit boring for us. South Korea in Group A. Let's just start to make our way through this. I'll just click advance because it'll be quicker. Group B, that's Portugal. Group C, France. Group D, Spain. Group E, we've got Germany. Group F is Ivory Coast. Group G, Mexico. Group H, Argentina. Group I, USA. Group J, we've got Brazil, of course, the team we knocked out in the round of 16 at the last World Cup. Group K, Croatia. And Group L is going to be Italy. Group A now, I'm really intrigued in this group because South Korea definitely the weakest of the pot 1 teams so far. And joining them from pot 2, Nigeria. That is pretty early stages of the group I want for us here with the All Whites, because I think that's definitely a group we could even potentially finish on top of. So Group A, yes please. Group B, Portugal, joined by Cameroon. To be fair, I think we'd do okay in that group. Could potentially beat Cameroon. Not too sure about Portugal. France beat us in the quarterfinals of the last World Cup. They're joined by Switzerland. I think they're a little bit beatable, so wouldn't mind that one either. Group D, Spain. They're joined by Belgium. Belgium definitely look the scariest of those pot 2 teams alongside the Netherlands. That's probably one that we want to avoid. Group D. Group E, Germany. They are joined by Austria. We might be able to handle Austria, so I don't know if I'd mind Group E too much. Group F, the Ivory Coast and the Netherlands. That one does look a little bit tricky, albeit our record so far in this against African nations is actually pretty good. Group G, Mexico joined by Serbia. That one alongside Group A, I think is one that we could do quite well. And if we get there, Group H, Argentina are joined by Japan. That could be an interesting matchup, but Argentina probably a team that will have far too much quality for us, being their defending champions. Group I, USA are joined by Uruguay. Decent teams, but I think for us with the All Whites, they'll both be beatable if we're at our best. Group J, Brazil, we know we can beat them. Ghana, I wouldn't mind that group. That'd be quite interesting, taking on Brazil yet again. In Ghana, I think, a team that we definitely have the capability to beat. Group K, Croatia joined by Sweden. Probably a bit stronger than it looks on paper, but still not too bad for us with the All Whites. In Group L, Italy, they are joined by Paraguay. I actually think we could beat Paraguay quite comfortably these days with the All Whites. Now it's time for our pot. Group A, if we get this one, absolute jackpot. Australia can't get it. There's lots of teams who can't get this group. We've got a really good chance of getting into this pretty weak-looking group here at the World Cup. We don't get it. It's Colombia. Boy, that's an average-looking group. Group B next up, and that is Ecuador. So thankfully, going to take on Portugal, one of the perennial strong teams at FIFA World Cups. Next up, France and Switzerland. France, of course, knocked us out of the last World Cup, so we'll probably get them here in Group C, but no, they get Australia. Did think that was our flag there briefly, so that's quite nice. Australia, they might be in trouble. Group D, Spain and Belgium. This does look like the potential group of death so far. And Saudi Arabia, that might put an end to that one being the group of death, because now it looks like Spain and Belgium should be going through quite comfortably. Group E with Germany and Austria. That is Iran. Running out of options here for the group. We can end up in Ivory Coast and the Netherlands. Group F. And that is the group that we end up in. The Netherlands, who have taken on before at a World Cup, in Ivory Coast, who are actually the pot 1 team. This might be a group that we do actually struggle to finish second in. So going to be quite important here who the pot 4 team is. If it's someone that we can thrash by lots of goals, then hopefully a draw against one of those 2 teams might be enough for us to be one of the best third place teams and make our way through to the knockouts. Group G, Chile. Group H, Ukraine. Group I, Tunisia. Group J, Poland. Group K, we've got Mali. And Group L, we've got Egypt. Now it's time for pot 4. Group A was Bulgaria. And to be fair, I think they were the only team who could actually end up in Group A. That still looks like a very, very weak group. Boy, I would have liked to be in that one. We probably could have topped it quite comfortably. Group B, and going into this one is Syria. Group C, Honduras. So it definitely looks like there France will be topping that group. Australia could make their way out of that group, to be fair. Group D, joining Spain, Belgium, and Saudi Arabia. Burkina Faso, Spain, and Belgium really should be getting out of that group. Group E, Germany, Austria, Iran, and DR Congo. Germany, hot favourites for that group. And here's our group. We could be joined here by Costa Rica or a bunch of teams that we really should be beating. So hopefully we get one of those other teams. Costa Rica, we definitely can beat, but I do think they're a bit better than the ones remaining in this pot at the moment. And we get Iraq, who we beat only a couple of windows ago, relatively comfortably by a scoreline, I think it was, of 5-2. So to be fair, that's not a bad draw for us. We should beat Iraq. Just then, need to beat them well and take a point off of one of the Netherlands or Ivory Coast, which I think we could do, but hopefully just a big win over Iraq might see us be one of the better third place teams. Group G, that's Qatar alongside Mexico, Serbia, and Chile. Group H, Argentina, Japan, and Ukraine. They are joined by Costa Rica. Group I, USA, Uruguay, Tunisia, and Slovakia. That one is a little bit average looking, to be honest. Group J, Brazil, Ghana, Poland, and Guatemala. Group K, Croatia, Sweden, Mali, and the UAE. And that means that Panama will join Italy, Paraguay, and Egypt in that final group. So there's the groups there for the FIFA World Cup that will probably be coming up next week on the channel. Looks a little bit tricky. I think the top two teams a bit stronger than what we've faced previously in a World Cup group, the Ivory Coast being from pot 1 and the Netherlands from pot 2. We might in this group have to settle for a third place finish, but we definitely should be beating Iraq. A big win over those guys should be enough for us to make sure, as long as we don't get thumped by the Ivory Coast or the Netherlands, that we actually make our way out of that group as one of the best third place teams. And now it's time for me to sort out some pre-tournament friendlies. Apparently want to be taking on teams like those three there, so we'll see what we do. But World Cup coming up in June, but as I said, that's probably coming up next week. Before then, got to get through the rest of the OFC Champions League with Cashmere Technical, but that will do it for today's episode. Bit of a mixed one there in that window. I lost to Scotland with the changing room thing, and then a win over Ireland, also the World Cup group with the Ivory Coast, Netherlands and Iraq. If you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow and get back into the OFC Champions League. Hopefully make our way through the semis, which would set up a clash, you'd imagine, against Auckland City by getting past AS Magenta, who we beat in the final a couple of seasons ago. It might be a case of winning that first league quite comfortably at home, so instead of playing the second league on camera, we take on Christchurch United instead. But coming up tomorrow, we'll get back into the action with Cashmere Technical. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.